Speaking of age, how was the Gwar show?
Oh, well, I'm glad you mentioned. I don't know how the actual band Gwar was because I drank too much and I didn't see them. I just left, which is
Yeah.
something that drunkards do. I stopped drinking hard liquor a while ago, and then I just switched to red wine. My doctor said that I could drink red wine, so I don't. He didn't really specify quantity, so but so I'm at Gwar, and I thought, I'll just drink like I used to. That I'm at Gwar, right? I'm exempt, right? And
right.
I forgot how evil brown liquor is. It's just like I'm feeling nothing. I'm hammered, totally hammered, and like it. Yeah, I didn't make a total ass of myself. I probably, was a little bit too familiar with my buddy who's not into that kind of shit,
Right.
but I didn't touch him inappropriately or anything.
I guess that's a plus. Yeah. It's good you see a little silver lining at least.
Yeah. But I woke up in the morning like, why do I feel so mired in shame? Why don't I remember anything about, like, I remember everything about the opening band, but why don't I remember seeing Gwar? Because I didn't see them. I paid money to go down there to eat, to park, and I didn't see the band, so I don't know.
Well, I have to say I've been there myself, good sir, and it's not a pleasant feeling. I think it's the sense of shame thing that really kicks you in the ass. The drinking part is whatever, but when you think about, did I do or say anything when I was in that state? You just don't know.
Well, I mean, I wasn't blackout drunk. I was just I was stumbling around, and I knew I was way too drunk. And I don't know why I do this. I go through, if I go to a concert alone, it's an internal thing to where I'm just like, the band's 2 songs in, I could leave now. I could totally leave and go home. I don't know why I have this feeling, but
I've done it too.
But when I'm totally drunk with a friend that's just totally, the nicest guy in the world, that'll be like, oh, you want to go home? Let's go home. And he wasn't going to be like, are you fucking out of your mind? You came here to see this band. No, it's like, I'll drive you home. And then next thing I wake up and I haven't seen the band. So it's, 2 days of just self-hatred, but I got through it.
I'm glad you got through it. But you saw X-Cops though, right?
Saw X-Cops. That was fun. I saw Cancer Christ. That was entertaining.
They're an entertaining band for sure.
You saw them? Yeah. They were a good time. Negative Approach, I think, was playing.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I've heard of him.
Not a fan, but no offense. And then, I'm sure Gwar played a lot of cool Gwar songs.
No, I've been there, done that. I was just curious about, because you when you told me the X-Cops was opening up, now did you go to see that Gwar concert with me when I still lived in Florida and the X-Cops opened up back then?
No, I didn't. This is the first time that I've seen any iteration of X-Cop. So what was cool about it is Pete Lee was playing guitar with them again. Pete Lee, who was who played one of the many Flatus Maximuses, but he was one of their more beloved iterations of Flatus Maximus. He's the guy that was in the car with Gwar when they got when there was a shoot and he got shot.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he got shot with the band. They had to take out a big chunk of his colon, and he went through all sorts of health problems. But he seems like one of the funniest dudes. This Texan dude, just really thick accent, just really seems real affable and funny. He was in the band, so he was playing. Like obviously Dave Brockie wasn't there to reprise his role as the Nazi cop bassist. So it was some. They kind of underwrote that whole character. They didn't do his song. He was just some stand-in bass guy. Yeah. And the shtick with the drummer was it was some guy on death row that they put this old Sparky to at the end of the show, and he's like being electrocuted while he's playing drums. So it was funny, It was what can you do? Yeah,
I like that. I remember seeing X-Cops, back in the day, and just being like, we were just, I don't know if I was there with Morgan. I probably was there with Morgan, but we were just amazed. We're like, oh, that's fucking, this is Gwar, but in iteration thing.
Yeah, they just switched roles and costumes, and they did the same thing. They even made timely jokes like, "Wow, this song sure didn't age well." And
yeah, such good times with that stuff. Well,
yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that story.
no problem.
And guys, we've been talking, but this is Cinematic Suffering, and this is our Bits and Chunks episode.
Welcome. And click like, subscribe.
If you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure to leave a 5-star review. Hooray! We did it!
Woo! Only 45 minutes in, 6 minutes and 23 seconds. We can start cursing now because the YouTube algorithm won't demonetize us.
Right. Here we go. No, yeah, guys, we usually get together for Bits and Chunks when we don't have really a specific topic, like a movie review or a sit down to watch through or anything like that. We just like to talk about, things we've done and things we've watched that, are somewhat metal and horror oriented. They all kind of intersect.
Yeah,
a little bit. But Clay, you went to that show. I went to on Saturday. I went to go see Claudio Simonetti's Goblin, and they were performing so they showed the movie Demons, and then they played the entire soundtrack while the movie was playing, so it was in real time.
Excellent,
dude. And these musicians are amazing musicians that are there. I mean, the bass player, there was only 4 members, bass player, I don't know their names, the bass player, drummer, and lead guitarist, and then Claudio is on the keyboards and doing all the cool Italian horror soundtrack stuff. And
cool.
And they knocked it out of the park. They did cover, I mean, because in the movie Demons, there's songs from Saxon, Accept, Iron Maiden, and they didn't cover they didn't cover Accept's Fast as a Shark song, which is odd, but they played the Maiden tune 2 times in the actual when they're recording it or when they're playing it. So, but they did a great job. It was Flash of the Blade. I think
okay.
Yeah, if that's off of Power Slave, I think. Pretty sure it's off of Power Slave.
That's awesome, dude. I bet that was a blast.
Yeah, and then they had then I thought they were just going to do like the soundtrack stuff and that was the end, but afterwards they played like another hour set of just classic. They played like the soundtrack from Dawn of the Dead. A lot of these that have been metaled up, truly had been metaled up, and some of them with their original format, but they kind of rearranged some things, so it was really cool. They played a reimagining, reworked version of Tubular Bells from The Exorcist, that classic theme.
Yeah.
The Halloween theme, they metaled the hell out of it. And yeah, so that was really a fantastic night of horror and music, and I'm so glad. And then the wife and I, my wife and I are celebrating our 7th anniversary, 7th marriage anniversary. Yeah, thank you so much. It was just last night, but it's been a whole weekend, 4 or 5 days of just consistently doing a lot of cool stuff, this entire time. So
that's great. Well, and it works out because y'all like really enjoy a lot of the same stuff in that way. You know, like my girl and I, like, she doesn't really enjoy going to the concerts, so I just kind of either go with a friend or I go alone. So,
yeah.
Gwar and the like is stuff that I do not want to subject to somebody that's not into it.
Right. It's like that old meme of, I don't know if it's like this old meme, but I don't know why I just even thought of it. But you see like, you talk to a person you just met, and they're like, oh, I like all kinds of music. And they go, oh yeah, and then you blast your favorite death metal album at full blast, and they're like, okay, maybe not all kinds of music.
Yeah, no doubt. And you could play like the 20th down on the list of severity, and they'd still be like, I don't like that. Yeah, it's like you soft. That's why.
Right. Yeah, and then on Sunday, we were planning to go to this drag show, this Halloween drag show at this place called Hamburger Mary's here. And everything was sold out. We couldn't get in. So at the last minute, we saw Cradle of Filth was playing just right down the road.
Wow.
And I think I'd messaged you. I was like, hey, shit, we're just going to go see. I knew you were out going to see Gwar that night, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, damn, we're going to a show too. So we went and saw Cradle of Filth and Devil Driver. I'm not a huge fan of Devil Driver, but it was entertaining. And
I forgot that they got. Is Dez Cavaleras still in the band?
Yeah, he's still fronting it and everything. But
do they still have 18 guitarists in the band?
No. They just have the two.
Okay, when I saw them, I think they had like, it was a long time ago, but they had like 4 guitarists or something. It was like, I can't hear 4 guitars coming out of each speaker.
Yeah, it's like Maiden with they've got their third guitarist, and the way they utilize them, it's just well, why don't you put more rhythm in the back or something, or
like
those guitar harmonies or something. But
I don't think Steve Harris felt good about firing him. It just didn't seem right. So
I always thought the same thing, dude. I always thought the same thing. They had this guy Yannick, they brought him in, and all of a sudden Adrian Smith wants to come back, Bruce Dickinson, and then they probably are like, they took off their hats and they're like, Yannick, we have some good news and some bad news.
You're still Yannick in Maiden, kinda.
Yeah. Maiden looks at him Yannick looks at him with his puppy dog eyes and says, what could you possibly want to tell me, fellas? That we've been playing for so long, for 15 years. And so I think they came back and they're like, nothing. Hey, Adrian Smith's coming back and we're going to keep you in the band. Yay.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
I was reading actually listening to the audiobook of Bruce Dickinson's autobiography. He's probably got several by now, but he mentioned that whole time, and it was just almost like not even a paragraph where he describes how it went down, and I was like, that's no more conversation or contractual obligations or lawyers, nothing like that involved, guys.
Yeah. I always like watch YouTube videos or read excerpts from books or something about what happened back then, and it's usually been kind of inconsistent, even though there are some consistencies in the story, but then there's everyone's got their own version of what really happened. I'm just back.
I sure and you got to see it live. Several times. I sure enjoy watching him play with the band, and he's obviously an insanely good guitarist.
Oh, so. Yeah. Props to Yannick for sticking it out and not being kicked out of Maiden, I guess.
Yeah, it's like for being the fifth Maiden member. Have
you seen or watched anything that intrigued you?
There was one that my partner wanted to get called The Damned. It's an old horror, old Hammer movie that I ended up really liking. And I know you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I can really recommend that one. That was a really interesting movie. It came out like a good decade before, Clockwork Orange, but it's got oddly a lot of the same themes. It's it's like a whole decade earlier, so it's a little bit more zany and upbeat, and there's not any of the really obvious horrible themes, but a lot of it almost seems like, wow, did one movie know about the other? It was
or if Kubrick took some inspiration from it or something, or
possibly, ruffians doing ruffian type stuff in a weird kind of relationship that pops up around, between one of the gang members' sisters and this dude that they're harassing. And it just goes into Weirdoville, where they end up finding this underground bunker full of kids that are radioactive to the touch, and then they all start getting sick. It's a incredibly weird film. Some really good performances.
Probably one of those. It's kind of like the Cold War era kind of movies, where they are trying to get some kind of weird anti-war, anti-nuclear message or something.
Probably, but if that was the intent, it didn't come through. But I still enjoyed it. I didn't feel a real strong anti-war theme. I should have been more compelled that. It should have been a little bit more compelling that they were scientists keeping these kids underground and keeping them away from everybody. But it seemed like, no, that's the thing to do.
Yeah. You should keep them underground. It's very good.
They're very, very radioactive. But yeah, it was that one was good. It was one of the many worthwhile Hammer films to
Yeah.
add to the collection.
Oh, it was a Hammer one.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, right. I just added it to my list here, so I definitely want to check it out. I don't know, kind of spurred me on about a subject that I wanted to pick your brain about. A friend of mine posted recently that he's tired of these high-minded horror films and he just wants to see blood and gore and stop trying to teach us a lesson kind of deal. And I always thought that was weird because I think all horror movies have some kind of message behind them, even if it's a nihilistic message that, even Friday the 13th has some kind of odd message behind it. And I just don't think you can get away with a movie that doesn't have some kind of message.
I kind of know what. I don't want to assume that I know what he's talking about, having not read what he said. But a lot of times, I've noticed in cases like this that that kind of you have to dig into to the meat and bone of what people are talking about, because a lot of times they're not very articulate about the way they say it, and they come out just sounding like it's stupid woke crap, and it makes them sound like they hate things with gay people and stuff like that. And I don't think that's the case, but what he is probably trying to say is that I don't like being condescended to.
Yeah. Here's his exact quote.
Okay.
I can't stand the, he put in quotes, elevated horror genre. It's snobby, pretentious bullshit that puts me to sleep. Blood, guts, and high body count, please.
Like it's not an either or proposition, I guess would be my immediate thing. There's enough space. It's kind of like when, people like, total respect to him, but when somebody like Martin Scorsese craps all over Marvel movies, which I think are garbage. Let me kind of sidebar to that. But my genuine feeling is that there's more than enough room in the world of movies for everything, for things that are high-minded, and for what I consider to be just kind of like very cotton candy entertainment of Marvel movies. But that's fine if you like them. Go enjoy them. I don't get too much out of them, but I like to see both. I like when it comes to the kind of movies that this person is talking about, that have just an absurd amount of violence, that things that just deeply upset like film critics back in the day. That they just couldn't wait to just pontificate. Remember, like, Siskel and Ebert would just spend half an hour talking about how bad a movie was, and how you shouldn't see it. Like, well, you guys are talking about
familiar.
It does, really, but just excoriated as trash filth, this class of Nukem High. It should just be burnt at the pyre. I definitely like horror movies like that just have nudity for the sake of nudity, and you can tell that they're just there to be irreverent and to be as kind of counterculture as you could get.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think when I think of pretentious movies, I think this person is probably mainly going for A24 and their film biography or discography or whatever we want to call it, filmography. That's what you can call it. And I agree. There are probably some films in that category, their filmography, that are a little pretentious and high-minded, but at the same time, they've knocked out the park some really good ones. And when I think of combining a good gore fest and you want to get some high-minded ideals in there, look at Cronenberg's son. His films, Possessor and Infinity Pool, are very high-minded takes. They're sexualized but they're highly violent and gory, but they still have this message that comes through about them that, some of it's pretty obvious, like Infinity Pool. I don't know. Have you seen Infinity Pool?
No, and I've been meaning to, because I was so enamored with Possessor that I'm surprised I didn't see Infinity Pool by now. Right. I feel bad about not having seen.
Yeah, I will totally recommend it to you. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but there's an overarching theme that is present in the film about the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah,
and it's really prevalent, and the way he pulls it forward, even though Possessor's probably the better film, Infinity Pool has the kind of like a deeper feeling or meaning, I think, about it.
Yeah.
There's a and another thing I like about Possessor and Infinity Pool, it presents the technology in those films as just this is the technology, accept it. Even though we know what was happening in Possessor could never happen,
Yeah.
it's something that is normal in that movie with this organization. And the same thing with Infinity Pool has this technology in it that it's bonkers shit crazy, but it fits well with the narrative of the story, and your disbelief is well suspended.
Yeah, I don't know if that kind of creativity, that if any of that kind of creativity gets passed in our genetics. I think that it does on a certain level because, my mom, like my mom and my dad both, they didn't make a living as artists, but my dad loved typography. He had a real deep love for typography, and my mom loved writing, and like that. And I got the art gene. I think that at least in some kind of ways, I got it from them. In the case of Cronenberg, I'm almost more excited about what Brandon Cronen, that's his name, right? Brandon
Yeah,
Cronenberg
Brandon. I couldn't figure his first name.
is going to get up to, almost even more than his dad. And I love a lot of his dad's movies,
Oh
but
yeah,
man, Possessor, that was his first feature film, I think, and it was amazing. It was like,
yeah,
one of the best horror movies that I'd seen in a while. I remember being really excited to see it, and it was one of those movies that it was totally riveting while I was watching it, and it stuck with me afterwards. There was something about it that was just so compelling and just horrific about this whole idea of taking away somebody's autonomy like that.
yeah,
That just really sticks with you.
yeah. It was a, and again, going back to the original subject, it's a high-minded, um, some may call it pretentious outlook or view, but it comes off visceral, and
Yeah.
and it hits you. It hits you really hard if you're really paying attention to the movie and you watch everything that's happening. That you're just trying to place yourself in the character of the guy who just murdered his father, and well, not his father-in-law. I guess his girlfriend's father, and her. And then
Yeah.
he has to come out of it, and no idea what's going on, and it was it turned like it was a thriller, it was a suspense, it was a horror, it was a sci-fi movie, kind of like all this stuff just combined into one, and that's what I've loved about it.
Well, and there's a lot of stuff at play here. From like for me, I think when I get annoyed, when I turn into that guy and I complain about those things, is when I feel like I'm being condescended to and preached to, and when there's this really heavy-handed morality message that's
Yeah,
pushed at me in a very kind of infantile way, like it's like getting condescended to by a child or something. A lot of these films, that's kind of how I feel. It's like you can tell that it's somebody's first or maybe their second, but usually their first film, and they're not that experienced of a filmmaker, and they're trying to push this really big agenda on you, and it's like just it's getting in the way of the narrative, and that's just
yeah,
bad storytelling. So like I can see how that would be annoying, but if a film has nothing behind it that's compelling aside from just trying to bombard you with gore, we've seen it, and it's like, and
yeah.
if it does it so well to where you're just almost watching this simulated snuff movie, I kind of question if it's got that much value as a piece of art anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Even though I enjoy the Gorefest films. Now, I think you probably like them a little bit more than I do.
Depends on the film.
Yeah, I know you recommended some pretty heavy, not slasher, but gore-filled flicks that I'll probably see them, but I'm not sure when, kind of thing. So to me, it's like I like my gore presented in either a campy fashion where we're talking like Friday
Yeah.
the 13th, the slasher kind of stuff, or again in those high-minded, pretentious films where it's used to great effect. When it's done for just the I guess gore porn, that it's not all me, it's not my
Yeah.
thing, but I'm certainly not going to judge another person if that's what they prefer over like The Witch or Hereditary. If they want to watch a trauma film that's just nothing but heads being slashed smashed in or whatever. It's fine.
I guess it depends on, like, I've talked about Adam Chaplin enough for a lifetime, but what that was one of those movies. What originally captivated me was the real over the top, gratuitous splashes of gore. But when I was watching it, I was like, God, this is the music for one thing was just amazing. It had, I think it might have been Perturbator that did the soundtrack to that.
Oh, really?
Apologies if I'm wrong. If it wasn't Perturbator, it's definitely somebody that's kind of good at the same thing. I think it was Perturbator, but I'm not going to look it up right now. But love the soundtrack, love the way it was presented, and the way that the story builds shows a real kind of competency towards good storytelling. It's still, the filmmaker is still kind of in his infancy, and I think he's probably going to get better. Some of his other stuff I can't really get through as well. It's just it's a little bit too much, but I like that one. So I'm with you. It's got to have something compelling to bring you through it. It's got to be a little bit more high-minded than just like, look what I can do.
Right. Yeah. I think of like Green Inferno and how fucking gory that was, but but it was it's obviously a homage to Cannibal Holocaust, but the over the top gore in that was crazy good, and that's a movie I enjoyed the hell out of, and it was pulled off well.
Eli Roth joint through and through.
Oh yeah. So when it's used in that fashion, and I think we've talked about it before in the past. With Cannibal Holocaust, it's a classic movie, but the uncut version is just nauseating because the with the real animal deaths, and I prefer not to watch that version.
And that's and that's definitely my line. Like when I'm watching, like I've been watching the In Search of Darkness documentaries, and those are fun because you can watch them a little bit at a time. Just the way they're structured, because they go kind of down the line and they talk about each movie, and so it's nice clean segments that you can just hit stop on. But those, like, I don't even like watching the lead up to. They don't show any of the animal deaths, but they'll show the lead up to it. And I find that just as upsetting almost as if they actually showed. Like, I really have a real visceral moral issue with animals being used in that way. I don't really care if, like, oh, we were going to eat it later. It's like, that's not okay still, but
and then, I think of Friday the 13th, the first movie.
Yeah, they kill a snake in that one.
They kill a snake, and I tell you, man, I hate snakes. I fucking hate them. I cannot be near them. I have like this intense phobia against snakes. That said, I don't want to see them killed. I don't want to see them, trapped and murdered, and I don't know if you call killing a snake murder, but you know what I'm saying. But I certainly don't want to. I don't want them to die. I don't want them. I don't want them around me, but I don't want them dead.
Yeah.
And so that's always I remember, watching that in the first Friday the 13th, and how that part hit me viscerally more than anything else in that movie because they actually killed that poor snake.
Yeah, and it's so unnecessary, and it's so it's just wildly inappropriate. And I can understand why people get irritated at groups like PETA. I'm definitely not trying to go down that road, but I'm glad that kind of thing has become kind of unacceptable in culture. Yeah. Like, if part of the reason that we like horror is that we're trying to face our fears, laugh at them, diminish them in a way that's at the end of the day, I think, positive and healthy, and you're kind of working against that if you know that something morally reprehensible was done in order to make this movie that's pretty dumb objectively a lot of the time.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So do we want to touch on maybe end this off with VHS 85?
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. I don't want to, take up too much of everybody's time, but you recommended VHS 85, and I really enjoyed that one. I'd watched a couple of the other ones, and I found 85 to be like entertaining through and through, beginning to end, which is a real kind of an achievement for a one of these what do you call them? Like not a montage, but
Uh,
an
Anthology, yeah.
anthology film. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was one of those things because I love the first one. I thought the first one has some great stories in it, and the second one I was a little off on, and the third one I don't even remember the third, to be honest with you, and I haven't seen any of the others. I think there's maybe two more, one or
I
two
think
more.
I think that's correct. I've seen the first two, and then I've seen this one.
Okay.
And I feel pretty much the same way. I thought that the first one had some real bangers in it, and then the second one was very uneven. The second one was almost the Creep Show 2 of the series.
Yeah, yeah. But VHS 85, I there was, here's my thinking behind it was that there's one story in there when they're introducing early VA virtual reality,
Yeah,
that virtual reality story where I was just like, when it started, I was like, oh my God, and it just it was like one of those things that's very slow. It's a slow, short story. And I was like, oh God, this is dumb. Can we just move on? And then the end of that segment is brutal. It's brutal as
yeah.
hell. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
liked that. I liked how it just totally got me over that hump. And I'm like, okay, this was worth the wait for sure. I
definitely.
I thought the story of the lake and the dinner party guests was above all the most excellent pieces of horror written for a while in that movie, and it would be great to see a full length horror movie based on those two twisted concepts.
Those were great. I like it. It's if it seems like we're being vague, it's because we don't want to ruin the movie for you because you really it's really fun to watch this one and not know
Yeah,
exactly what's going to happen. But I love that one. I thought that the dark humor and the surprise, shocking stuff was so well done. And like as soon as you think that characters are done for, they find a real creative way to bring them back in. And it was the dialogue was hilarious. It was some of the it was like instead of body horror, it was like body horror comedy in the vein of like Bad Taste from
yeah,
Peter Jackson. Like there was moments in that with people
yeah.
just squishing their own brains.
Yeah, and and it's like the first. It starts off with a banger with the first story where
Yeah,
you think one thing's going with one. You think the story's going one way, and then by the end of that segment, it just goes whoosh right into the other 180 degrees.
yeah.
And I was so pleasantly surprised by that because I was like, wait a minute, what? What's going on? Why are they doing this? Why are they, getting up?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Oh,
then
I loved that. I was
yeah,
laughing. I was smiling through the whole movie. It
yeah.
was fun. It was a
It
lot
was
of
a
fun.
So yeah, it's a highly recommended one, guys. If you haven't seen it by now and you made it to the end of this bits and chunks episode, make sure you do check that movie out. Stream it on
That's right.
Shutter.
Stream it. Get it. And Shutter pays us nothing, by the way. We pay Shutter.
Yeah, thank you, Shutter, for
Mhm.
letting us pay you.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to give us a free account, I'll take it. But
But okay, yeah, I guess that's it for this episode of Bits and Chunks. I don't think we really
fun.
have anything else on our plate as far as movie wise that I know we've been throwing ideas back and forth to each other.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe. Well, I don't know if we have anything that you want to announce yet, but I think you're working on something special. You're cooking. You can decide if you want to mention it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just working on Clay. If by now you know that Clay did his retrospective on Nightbreed, which is fucking excellent, and it was highly successful. And we're very proud of it. We put Clay put a shitload of work into that,
Well,
and
so did you. It wasn't just
yeah,
me.
uh, that yeah, we both. It was a great collaboration, and we're going to do a similar collaboration on another movie coming up. But I will be doing the voiceover stuff. And yeah, so I'm not going to reveal what it is just yet, but
Cool.
hopefully I'll get it done this month. I'm
It'll happen. It'll happen when it happens. But
it'll yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're just we try to put these out when we can. Like we're still very enthusiastic about it, but sometimes it takes a little time. So
Yeah.
we'll we'll get around to another one soon. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I guess that's about it. This is Cinematic Suffering, and I'm Jason.
I'm Clay.
Thank you all. Okay, we got to have a bad outro here. What's our bad outro going to be this time?
Watch movies. Don't watch people. Watch movies.
Watch people watch movies. Don't. Oh no, I have that all backwards, don't I?
Well, it doesn't even matter because it was so bad. Even if you got it right, it's wrong. So.
Okay, well, let's stick with that one. Whatever it was. We'll come up with something on the next episode. I promise you guys.
I'll write it. I'll get writing right now.
All right, that is it. Take care, and we'll talk at you later.
Later on.
Bye.